Welcome. My name is Diana Waring, and I'm glad you're here. As homeschoolers, we know that keeping our kids enthused about learning can be, shall we say, challenging? And of course, most of us are on a pretty tight budget, so money for doing fun things is limited, right? Well, today I'd like to talk with you about 5 ways you can make learning more fun in a way that engages your kids' interest and enthusiasm, and it's basically free. It's pretty easy to remember too. Whenever you need to insert a bit of fun and excitement, ask yourself these 5 questions. How can we taste this? How can we smell this? How can we touch this? How can we see this? And how can we hear this? These 5 sensory experiences can blow the lid off learning. And since my area of expertise is history, let me use that subject to show you how this can work. Can you imagine getting to learn your history and eat it too? If we're studying the Napoleonic era and we ask, what can we do to taste this? The answer is intriguing and delicious. Relocate your history study for the day to the kitchen. Break out the recipe for chicken Marengo, which tradition says was created for Napoleon after his victory at the Battle of Marengo, and have your kids start cooking. When your whole family sits down to a scrumptious meal that night, and you talk about this French military genius who had conquered pretty much all of Europe, things start to get really interesting. Your kids will be thinking, wow, this is history? All of a sudden, you've connected their taste buds to what they're studying in history. It's fun. And since you had to make dinner that night anyway, it's basically free. Continuing in the Napoleonic era, ask yourself, what can we do to smell this? Now, this one may require some creative thought as you try to find out what it might have smelled like in a moment of history. But I actually have an answer when it comes to Napoleon. Many years ago, my daughter and I went into a perfume shop in the French Quarter of New Orleans. On the counter, they had a display of Napoleon's cologne. Napoleon's cologne? What was that about? So I asked. And the story told me was that Napoleon's parfumier, his perfumer, had ended up in New Orleans after Napoleon's exile. And that this was, in fact, the actual recipe created for Emperor Napoleon. Amazing. When you sniffed it, it had the smell of oranges and other citrus. And according to the shopkeeper, Napoleon would wear a quart a day of the stuff. Isn't that wild? When you find things like this, I promise that they will remember it. Not just the fun. They'll remember Napoleon if they smell his perfume, if they eat his recipe. It brings facts into an entirely different realm. It comes to life. Next, ask yourself, what can we do to touch this? Now, you might have a chance to touch something that speaks to the Napoleonic era if you can go on a field trip. If you're close to New Orleans, go visit the Cabildo Museum, part of the Louisiana State Museum. This is where the Louisiana Purchase was signed. Did you know that the size of the U.S. basically doubled when Napoleon sold the Louisiana Territory to America? Things come to life when you can stand on it, when you can touch an artifact, walk around a building, or when you build with Legos or modeling clay, when you sew a costume or craft an art project. Anything that is hands-on counts when it comes to the sensory experience of touch. It too brings learning to life. What can you do to see it? Well, when it comes to Napoleon, there are famous paintings that give us a sense of what this guy was like, at least how some of his loyal followers saw him. Seeing is believing, they say, and seeing like this is remembering. And it keeps them enthused about learning. Finally, what about hearing? Well, music is a fantastic and unexpected way to learn more about history. If you study Napoleon with your kids and you get to the year 1812, you'll learn about Napoleon's march into Russia. And if you listen to the 1812 overture by Tchaikovsky, you'll discover the Russian point of view. They utterly defeated Napoleon's army, and you can hear it in this piece. Music is an incredible window into the past. It's a fun way to learn, and it's free. 5 questions. That's all you need to keep it interesting. And if you wish there were a curriculum that included all of this, then check out my History Revealed books and CDs at dianawaring.com. See you next time.